so much for checking out my free expense tracker. I wanted to just provide a quick tutorial or guide so that way you guys know exactly how to customize it for yourself and how you can better utilize this expense tracker. It really is just 3 steps. The first step is identifying your categories. And so on the left columns, you have your expenses and your income categories. And so I just have 11 categories listed here, and you can add additional categories by just typing over them. And so let's say I want to add a category for childcare. I can do that here. But let's say I don't need these extra categories. What you can just do is you can delete them, and they will no longer show up under your new dropdown. And the same thing for income categories. Like let's say you have your paycheck, a bunch of side hustles, and you have an extra category. We'll call it social media. You can just type that in easily in a new row or any existing categories you have. And let's say you want to remove these because they no longer apply. You can delete that. And so when we actually fill out our expense tracker, you'll actually be able to only see these 6 income categories and these 12 expense categories. The next thing is we got to fill out the start date, and so for 2021, we're going to start off with January 1st, but you can customize it to February 1st and any date that you want. And the third and final step is to just enter your income and expenses in their respective tabs below, and we'll be going over that in a few minutes. Just a few helpful tips. List any of your recurring expenses at the beginning of every month, and so this includes your housing or car payments or any subscriptions such as Netflix. I would recommend getting into a routine. Typically for me, I just do it every Sunday and every Wednesday, and so figure out kind of what works for you. And then also to make things easy, you can export online from your credit card statements. And so for my credit card, I use Chase. I actually just export the credit card statement into an Excel document and then copy and paste it into this tracker. And that makes it extremely easy. And so I have a few kind of sample transactions so I can show you guys exactly how to use it. And so we're going to just fill out January, but I'm going to copy paste January with a few different income types and then also an amount. And so if we just copy and paste it, you're going to copy and paste it into any of the cells that have the blue background in the column. And we're going to just copy and paste it here. And notice that it automatically can figure out the month and week for 2021. And let's say we wanted to add an additional one because we had a social media dropdown. Notice that whenever we add in the categories, those dropdowns are actually being pulled from the setup tab that we customize our categories for. And so we're going to click social media and let's say add an amount of 500. Now we're going to just copy and paste the rest of February and March just so we have a few months in here, and we'll be able to kind of take a look at all of the different metrics. And so now we have all of our expenses, our income and then we're going to go to the expenses tab. And so for our expenses tab, similar to before, we have our date, our title, our category, and our amount. I added a title column in the expenses because in this case, if we're going to go to Trader Joe's or Whole Foods or any sort of restaurants, that's likely going to happen more than one time a month. And so rather than aggregating that into one line, I have that as separate lines because you're going to be going on multiple days. And so similar to the other income tab, any of these categories will have the drop downs that we had selected, and then we're going to type in the amount. I also included a notes column, and so if there are any notes that you want to add to it, you could easily type them here. If you need a little bit more space, you can just drag the column and add more space for yourself. And so I'm going to just add the expenses for February and for March. So you just add them here, and Now we have a bunch of transactions for February and March. So where does this get fed into, right? Like now that we've inputted all of our income and expenses, it gets fed into this monthly tab. And what this will show is it'll show your monthly totals, such as your income, your expenses, your savings, and your savings rate. And so we've now have income and expenses for January, February, and March. And so you can see these updated percentages here. Notice that we're not using all of these expenses, right? These different categories. And so these rows are now blank. You can just actually highlight these rows by holding down Shift, right-clicking, and click Hiding Rows. And now any rows that you aren't using will be hidden. And so this repeats all the way from January all the way until December. And so the next tab is the yearly tab, and this just shows a yearly snapshot of all of your expenses and income. And similar to the monthly tab, if there are any rows that you're not using, just hide them, along with the expenses tab as well. And so here, now we have a quick snapshot of all of our income for the year, given the different categories and expenses. And you can see that we have a savings rate of 37% and all of our expenses and income. And now we can look at our charts and we can kind of see all of our income, expenses, and savings in a chart view along with the highest categories for expenses and for income. And so this will automatically update as you flow throughout the year. And then our last new tab is this goals tab. And this is where you can actually allocate and identify your 2021 savings goal. And so let's say our goal is $10,000. We want to save $10,000. We can see that given these numbers, we've reached 29% towards our goal. And so here is where we can identify any goals that we have. Let's say we have an emergency fund goal to pay off student loan debt, investing. We can actually type in any sort of your goals here. So maybe I want to save for our child fund. So I can just type in child fund here. And then since we have a goal of $10,000, we have to allocate how we want this $10,000 to be dispersed. And so let's say we have $5,000 for the emergency fund, $1,000 for student loan debt, $2,000 for investing, $1,500 for travel, and then $500 for the child fund, right? And so now that we've allocated all of our funds, since we've already saved $28.65, we can disperse how we want our savings. And let's say we want to do $2,000 for our emergency fund, and notice that it'll automatically update your percent reached based upon a particular color scale. And so let's say we want $300 towards student loan debt, $100 towards investing, $50 towards travel, and $415 towards this child's fund. And it'll automatically update based upon that color scale. And as you start reaching your goals, you should see all of these different colors turn to green. And so let me know if you guys have any questions. I really hope that you guys take advantage of this tracker. As usual, feel free to DM me on Instagram, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks.